Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a fall storm system that will be making its way across the United States in the coming days. Now this thing will be interesting as it won't be necessarily just a singular storm. At the beginning it will be, but it will kind of upend this pattern that will continue for quite a while with these low pressures that without much help of any strong high pressure or low pressure will just be kind of meandering the United States, barreling around in some areas dropping quite a bit of rain and others none at all, and it's a very kind of interesting pattern, something we've seen this year already, especially I recall towards the beginning of the summer. So I will be obviously talking about that and showing you that the impacts of this thing are mainly some severe weather, probably cooler air where the rain wraps around, and obviously some heavy rain in some areas. These systems, while they may not produce widespread heavy rain, a best example of this is yesterday here in my area, in the Chicago area. There was just south of the city. This wasn't really predicted, but there was a little line of thunderstorms that just kind of spun around this measly low pressure for quite a long time, and in some areas, 10 inches of rain fell, right? So incredible, a little event there that caused quite a bit of damage with no real heads up, as those type of things they're not really predictable, and they can happen, and I think we'll be seeing more of these potential with this, or more potential for those with these with this storm. So let me start off by showing you the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map. Notice it's generally quiet. It's a very quiet kind of United States right now. There are a few special weather statements, severe thunderstorm warnings for a few spare storms across, say, Kansas or Nebraska or Oklahoma there, Texas Panhandle. The Northwest, a few red flag warnings. Across the Northeast, there is a low pressure system that is actually dropping quite a bit of rain, especially on top of the rain that already fell with Lee. While those weren't incredible amounts, they definitely were already making things wet, and now you can see 2 to 3 inches is expected, so that will obviously contribute to more and more wetness. Now, this system first introduces itself to us through the Northwest. So notice the next few days there isn't really anything. By Wednesday, however, we see a little of a disturbance, some snow. Notice across the British Columbia, it is already September, so that is absolutely warranted. And notice this low pressure starts forming across the mountains. We start seeing showers kind of uptick. We do see a very, very weak, but nonetheless a flow off the Gulf of Mexico, bringing in some warm air and moisture, which is critical for this system, which you could see is still spinning across the west by the time you get into Thursday and Friday. So, for Nevada, northern Utah, Idaho, Washington, you will be seeing quite a bit of this rainfall activity. For the highest elevations, there could be some snow. Notice that we do start seeing quite a bit of activity across the central United States. We see these spark ups, these little waves of showers and storms. And there is no real low pressure that is too terribly strong at this point yet, and it won't ever get too strong. While it will, you can see, gain some momentum, and there is quite a bit of precipitation associated with it itself. Sorry about that. The low pressure itself won't be really anything to talk about. Where we do see a little bit more of an interesting low pressure is across the southeast. We have this precipitation that gathers and formulates. I don't know, maybe this will reach some tropical depression level of storm, maybe a tropical storm, I don't know. But do notice that will bring quite a bit of more rain and winds onto the Carolinas, and that will eventually kind of combine with this system, cutting it off from an eastward flow, which will cause this thing to sit in one place and stir for a while, meaning the Midwest. So notice that by late Friday, we have these showers and storms occurring across much of the upper Midwest. Now, again, this is just one model, right? So obviously take this with a grain of salt where the heaviest rain falls. This could be north, south, east, but notice where it does fall, it will be heavy. You can see those yellow colors. And notice something interesting also, snow across Yellowstone, probably the first big snowstorm there of the year, or snow event. And notice this thing tries moving out, right? But because of this low pressure, that brings even more rain towards the northeast, for, again, already areas that are under a flash flood watch. This thing just spins back behind itself, right? So Sunday, again, it's really not that strong in terms of its low pressure, but it is a large storm. It's pretty expansive, and it will be affecting quite a few areas. And this is what storms often do. They have a cold front, and where the little small thunderstorm event occurs, sometimes it causes a little bit of spin, and a little low pressure develops, causing a new wave. And you can see that happens right there off that cold front of this system that decays way up here. We have a new little low pressure that doesn't end up doing much, but it definitely does develop and contribute some more moisture. So at this point, we're already a week out, and we're still dealing with this guy. So again, as you saw, this thing doesn't necessarily make a track that is very clear, concise. I'll play this through the next few days, and you can see that it's all over the place. But nonetheless, precipitation does get dropped. There could be some days, especially on Friday and Saturday, where that precipitation is a lot heavier in certain areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, where they really need rain because of the drought. Might get some decent amounts of precipitation from it, which would be ideal. Now, notice again, it takes quite a sweet old time to move out of here and kind of dissipate. And this is what I meant by kind of the barrel-like low pressures. Notice that they kind of turn into these upper level lows. They close off from the jet stream and they just do whatever they want. They kind of meander. You can see this one is still kind of the remnant of the initial storm a week out, kind of producing these little showers, moving into the northeast. At this point, we have new energy kind of moving in from the west. You can see some showers starting to develop here. But again, also a lack of direction. So these low pressures don't really intensify into anything massive, but neither do they, not result in any rain. You can see that especially the northeast will probably get quite a bit of rain in the next few days. Now, in the long range, you can see we start seeing something a little bit more impressive. We see a large low pressure with quite a bit of precipitation move its way onto the northwest, and we have extreme winds from the south, and this is where low pressure could really take off, and its development is a lot more suitable. Notice we have a high pressure here, low pressure with cold air there, and we see incredible warmth across the Midwest. Now, this is very far out. Only reason I'm pointing this out is this is where you have an environment where a large system would take place between these two, kind of that baroclinic zone between that cold and warm. And what we will have for the next, let me go back to the anomaly, up until then, for next 300 hours is anything but that. It's just these back and forth, warm, a little bit of cool, depending on where you are. You can see no real concise pattern. Definitely on the warmer side of things, if anything, not cooler. But also no real heat waves, mildly warmer. And then up until the very far future, we might get something more significant. Let's take a look at the European and what it shows with this system. The European actually keeps the storm a little bit stronger, the one that moves in onto the northwest this week. So notice again, Tuesday, tomorrow, nothing really big. There will be some, obviously, across the northeast, some scattered areas of showers across the Midwest, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma. And into the northwest, we have that weak system moving in. And then again, by Thursday, we do have that weak flow from the Gulf of Mexico, so some of those showers do pop up, and they could be a little bit more laden with moisture. We see some general precipitation across the upper plains into Friday and Saturday, starting late Thursday. Again, late Friday into Saturday, there could be quite a decent precipitation event across the Dakotas, and potentially into Iowa and Minnesota, maybe even Wisconsin. That would be very good. Obviously, a lot of these areas are in pretty bad drought. So you can see most of the day Saturday, this thing is a very slow-moving system, meandering through the Midwest. Again, while some areas may not get that much of precipitation, often these slow-moving low pressures that just develop or kind of sit around for a few days, what we get is areas of showers that target a certain area, and that area gets a lot of precipitation, causing some flooding potentially, like we saw, with that example I used from Chicago this past weekend. And notice this thing, just like the GFS, it shows it kind of backwashing, redeveloping, showering. We see continued that kind of moisture also meandering off the coast of the southeast, contributing to some rainy conditions. And notice that the European still has this system and its remnants kind of circling around the Great Lakes for several days into next week. Now, whether or not this will be the case, it remains to be seen, but it doesn't seem that there's any evidence to show that it won't. I mean, the GFS and European both show very slow-moving systems. And again, the precipitation at any given time won't be incredible, but once you have several days of this kind of meandering, you could easily add those amounts up to, 4 or 5-ish inches, especially along the areas where these precipitation bands may kind of overlap or stay put in a singular area. Now, these models, these long-range ones, won't show that because they can't depict that. That's only for the high-res models, and sometimes even the high-res models fail to do that, like what we saw with this past weekend. Canadian model, very similar. You can see it shows several areas getting a bit more precipitation, especially the northeast. That's a consistency with almost all the models, showing quite a bit of precipitation on top of the conditions that they already have, which is very wet. Here's another look at the European model on the pivotal weather, which kind of better shows, I guess, the characteristics of this thing. So again, there it is. Still quiet up until Thursday's that first active day across the upper plains, and we start seeing really strong activity into Friday and Saturday. Again, there will be some severe weather as well. It doesn't seem like a big outbreak of any kind, but definitely something noteworthy and something to pay attention to. Notice the European continues showing these little showeries, these little bands, and yeah, that meanders for several days across the Midwest, essentially staying in place, which could obviously add up some of those precipitation amounts. So up until then, yeah, that's what the pattern's going to be. Large system that's just going to move in and drop quite a bit of precipitation, But again, really nothing too incredible about it. There won't be any severe weather that is noticeable, and it's just mainly the rain and yeah, the storm being very stationary for a good amount of time. So that's basically it. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update on this. And yeah, for now, that's all we have to show you. I could show you the previous models of the GFS to show you that it's been pretty consistent with this storm. So let me run this through again, and let me show you this. So again, here's from noon today. You can see there's that storm that we're talking about moves through. Definitely at the same time, there will be that system across the northeast, which is also something obviously we have to watch for, which will drop quite a bit of precipitation. From the morning hour run today, you can see that this storm was also being shown right there. Again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, along with that coastal tropical storm, whatever hybrid system, that's probably also going to drop quite a bit of precipitation. Now, as we look into, say, even a few days ago, right, on Saturday, I think this was, or, yeah, let's go all the way to Friday, right, just to show you that these models have been consistently showing some sort of activity from a big system around this time. So again, there's Wednesday, there's Thursday, and boom, there's that storm. So it's been consistent. I'm pretty confident in it actually occurring. Again, it's just that the impacts of this are a bit hard to predict, especially on a local level, where an area of showers may be stronger or weaker, or vice versa. Same thing with the European model. It's been showing this for a few days. Let's go back to say midnight, late Saturday into early Sunday. And you can see that there is that coastal system that is right now going on across the northeast. The models pinpointed that pretty accurately. Again, little areas of showers, but it really starts kicking off on Thursday of this week and Friday across the upper plains in the west. And yeah, you can see the European does show this thing again, very slow moving along with that coastal tropical system. What is also interesting, as I did mention, there could be some snow across the west, so I will show you some of the snowfall amounts here. 240 hours out, you can see there will be some pockets of snow, maybe 6-7 inches, and that would be mainly obviously the highest of the high peaks. The GFS does show some snow as well, and you can see it shows some areas, even northern Utah maybe, a little few mountain ranges there, 4 or 5 inches, in Yellowstone 6 inches, and you can see that the GFS 384 hours out, so this is 15 days out, but it shows some even decent amounts here beginning across British Columbia and whatnot, so that's pretty interesting. Alright, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.